Okay then, so plotting these points here. So first I'm going to start off with number of hours of sunshine here, 3.5 and 92. But before I do that, I'm going to work out the scale. So here I've gone up 50 in 10 little squares, so that's 50 divided by 10, which tells me one little square is worth 5. So when I am looking for 3.5, here's 2, here's 4, so 3 must be there. That means 3.5 must be there. So I'm going to go along 3.5. Now here's 100. Coming back 1 would be 95. Coming back 2 would be 90. So it's going to be sort of in there somewhere. So I'm going to plot it at about there, I think. And then I'm going to do a little X there. Not the easiest one to plot. The next one, 7.5. So that's 6 and 8 there. So there's 7. So 7.5 must be there. And then at 170, that probably is easier to plot this time. So there's 150. And then 155, 160. 165, 170. So I'm going to plot my point there. Like that. And then I just tick them off as I go along. 4 and 104. So 4 is really easy because obviously I can just go along the 4 line. There's 100, so there's 105. So then I'm going to come just under there. And again, tick it off. And then 4 again and 110, so that's perfectly fitting on 1. 4 and 110. 4.5 and 115, so here's 5. So 4.5 must be in the middle. So I'm going along here. And then I'm looking for 415, so that's going to be 3 little squares up. So I will put it there. And finally 6 and 145, so I'm just going up the 6. There's 150. Come back 1 would be 145 there. Okay then. So you'll notice there 2 minutes, 2 marks, 2 minutes, and that's exactly what I took. It wasn't easy to do that one. It says describe the correlation. Now whenever they're looking for that, they're looking for a one-word answer, and that answer is, in this case, it is positive. And for the next question, it says by eye draw a line of best fit. Now that word here, by eye, that still means you use a ruler. It just means you don't plot a mean point, so you don't add up all of these numbers up here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You don't add up these 6 numbers here, divide by 6, and same with these ones, and plot a mean point, and draw a line of best fit through there. Okay. So when you're drawing by eye your line of best fit, you want roughly for the line to go with the trend of data, predicting where you think these points are going to go. It does not need to come through the origin of my line here that I'm just sketching with a laser. I think it's going to do something like that. It doesn't go through there. And when I'm drawing the line here, I'll see if I can draw a straight line. I think I can. I'll try and draw it now. No, not quite. Maybe I can move that. Can I move it? Yeah, something like that. And then, although I should really extend that, although I'm not sure if I can with this app. And then finally it says, use your line of best fit to estimate the number of visitors that come to Nature Park on a day with 5 hours sunshine. So what I should do now, just about okay, really like I said, my line should really go all the way until it hits the axes here. But because I'm looking for 5 here on the x-axis here, 5 hours of sunshine. Oh, again, let me sort that out. There and there. 5 hours of sunshine there. I'm going to draw a line up until I hit my line of best fit. So along there, you can see there, it fits perfectly for me, for my line. It may be different on yours. As long as you've done what I've done, it's fine. Right in between 100 and 150, so that must be 125. So I'd write in 125. Just my answer. I can write visitors, but no need. To complete this question, you need to draw an XY table for this this equation here. So to start off with, you always do x, and your y is equal to 5x's, and then add 10. Now, for your numbers for x, you choose these yourself. I always choose 1, 2, and 3, but you can choose any numbers you want as long as you can plot them on the graph below. So I could have chosen 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, as long as they then fit in the subsequent y values. So this is telling me that I'm going to do 5x, which means 5 times x, so 5 times 1, and I'm going to add 10. So that is 15. The next one is going to be 5 times 2, which is 10, add 10, which is 20. And then finally, this one here is going to be 5 times 3, add 10, 15 add 10, which is 25. I'm now going to plot those points. So I'm looking for 1 on the x's, because I'm on the x's here, 1 and 15. So 1 and 15 would go here. Then I've got 2 and 20, so that is going to go here. And then I've got 3 and 25, so that is going to go here. I would then get my ruler, which my line isn't going to be as good as yours, I can tell you now, and I draw a straight line, not just going from here to here like that, but you actually continue that line with your ruler until you hit the axis here. And if you've drawn it correctly, it should go through 10, which is no surprise because that value there is plus 10, and if I put in 0, 5 times 0 is 0, add 10 is 10. Okay, so 0 and 10. For this question, you need to know something about a four-sided shape. Four-sided shapes with four angles all add up to 360 degrees. So 4 sides equals 360. The other one that you should know is that if it had 3 sides, i.e. a triangle, 3 sides is equal to 180. For more than 4 sides, you need to know the formula n take away 2 times by 180, and that will tell you how many degrees is in that shape. Okay, if you're unsure about that, you need to check in lessons how that's created, because it's very important you do know that. So I know that if can I colour these in? Yeah, highlight that. That angle plus that angle plus that angle plus this angle must come to 360. Okay, so that's precisely what I'm going to write now in my working just underneath. I'm going to say that 5x 5x plus 40 plus the 2x plus the 2x plus 20 plus the 3x, in any order, it doesn't matter which order you're doing because we're adding them, is equal to 360, and that's because 360 go into a four-sided shape. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm going to get all the x's together, so I've got 5x plus 2x, that's 7x, plus another 2x, 9x, and then plus the 3x is 12x. So I can say 12x here. The next thing I'm going to do is add the numbers together. So I've got a plus 40, a plus 20, and that's it. So it's just going to be plus 60 there. And then I'm going to put that equal to the 360, because that's still not changed. It's still true that that equals 360. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the plus 60 over to the other side, or I'm going to balance it by taking 60 off each side to get me 12x is equal to 360. Sorry, not 360, but 300. Now the next thing I need to know, I don't know this, I need to work out how many 12s fit into 300. I've got no idea at all. The best way for me to work that out probably is to do the bus stop method. So if I do 12 there, 300 in there, my gut feeling is I don't think it's going to go in, but we'll soon see. So how many 12s fit into 3? So count in 12s until you reach 3. So we go 0, which is none, and then 12, so I can't. So the answer to that is 0, but I cross that out and bring it across to the remainder. Okay? Then, how many 12s fit into 30? So I'm counting in 12, so 12, that's 1, then 24, that's 2, and then 36, and then that's too much. So 12, 24, that was 2. So my answer to this one is 2, and then 2 times 12, so this 2 times by the 12 is 24, so I've got a remainder of 6 because I was supposed to get to 30. Now that's all good, because how many 12s fit into 60? The answer to that is 5, so my answer is x equals 25 degrees. Okay? To work out percentage, your formula needs to be, so it's a good idea to learn this, there's a couple of percentages you need to learn. It is whatever your score is divided by the total, and then you multiply that by 100 because it's a percentage. Percent means per 100, so you times by 100. So Richard got 87, so that's 87 out of a total of 150, so out of 150. and then we're going to times that by 100. Now, in terms of actually working that out, I think this is a non-calculated paper. Ignore that last remark, I've gone and checked, it's not, it is a calculated paper. So, that's just going into my calculator exactly as it looks. So 87 over 150 times by 100. And for that matter, the last question that I did, how many 12s fit into 300, just stick it into your calculator, don't run the risk of going wrong. And then this answer is 58%. That's how much he got in his test. Next question says, a bracelet costs £35. It's sold for a profit of 80%. What is the selling price? So I need to find 80%. Now don't go and find 10%, then times it by 2, then times it by 2 again. Don't do that because you've got a calculator. 80%, this bit here, means 80 out of 100. That's what 80% means. You multiply that by £35. That goes into your calculator to give 28. Now £28 is the profit. That's what that is. That is my profit. Now the question was, what was the selling price? So the selling price must have been what I actually paid for it, that 35 quid there, plus the £28 profit. So 35 plus 28, and again, just be safe. Don't run the risk of doing this in your head and getting it wrong. The answer is 63. Or £63 to be precise, but don't run the risk of doing that in your head if you've got a calculator for this paper. Next one, literally just going into your calculator as exactly as it looks. So the 2.34, make sure you stick it in brackets because it's in brackets there. It needs to look identical to that. Now it says, make sure you read the question carefully, it says correct to 2 decimal places. Okay, now if you write out the whole answer, which you should get, 70, that's supposed to be a decimal point there, 70.15833 you will get one of those marks there, okay? It is important you round it to 2 decimal places because it says to round it to 2 decimal places. So the line down there, this number here is 5 or bigger, so that means this one's going up by 1. So my answer should be 70.16 to 2 decimal places. Okay, and likewise with the next one, stick it in exactly as it looks like in your calculator. Make sure you've got the cube. There's an X cube button on your calculator, and then minus brackets 5.6734, and then minus 4.921, and equals. And again, stick down the entire answer. If you go wrong rounding, you will get a mark for writing out the full answer, okay, for one or, well, probably just 1 mark for either one of these because you need to have the 1 answer mark there and 1 answer mark for the correct answer to this, okay, but better to get 1 mark than nothing at all. Okay, so to 2 decimal places again, line down here, that number is 9, because that's 9, this goes up by 1, so my answer should have been 6.35 to 2 decimal places. Okay, be very, very careful with this question here. You are doing your triangle, which is speed is equal to distance divided by time. So because I'm calculating the average speed, I cover up the S, so that is distance divided by time. But look here, it says kilometres/hours. They've told me 4 hours and 30 minutes. Now that is not 4.30, so I'm going to put a line through there to say it is not equal to that. That is wrong. How much of an hour is 30 minutes? If it's 30 minutes past 10, so it's 10:30. So my real answer to this is 4.5 hours. Okay, so the calculation you want to do is 67.5 kilometers. 67.5 kilometers divided by 4.5 hours. Okay, that will turn it into what it was asked for, kilometers/hours. So that goes into my calculator and gives the answer 15 km/hour. Okay, so I can't actually draw this as I'm going along, so I'm going to try and just insert pictures to show you how I did this as it went along. Okay, so the first I'm going to show you is this one by here. Okay, so because it says it's a rhombus, so a rhombus is just a pushed over square. Okay, so square obviously looks like that, pushed over square, like something like that, but I can maybe draw that a bit better. That's not the best I've ever drawn. pushed over square, so it sort of looks like that. And some people think it looks like a diamond as well, but diamonds we tend to see looking like that. A rhombus is more what we're starting to look at here, so like this one here. Okay, so this line here measures 6 centimeters, and it means every single line has to measure 6 centimeters. So what I've done now is I've opened my compass, I put it to the end of this line, and I've opened it to a length of 6 centimeters. Okay, what I've done next now, I've drawn an arc by pivoting my compass by here. I've drawn an arc of 6 centimeters, like a whole circle around that, but I've only done this bit here because I'm focusing on basically drawing this sort of shape here. Okay, so that every distance from here on that blue line is 6 centimeters. What I've done next, because it says the longer diagonal, so I'm focusing on this bit here, is 10 centimeters. I've got an opened with my my compass, and I've measured a distance of 10 centimeters with the compass. I'm about to draw an arc from this point here. So basically, when I do draw that arc, so it'll come something like that, where these two cross over, that will be the diagonal, the long diagonal of 10 centimeters. Okay, so I've got something looking like that now. So what I'm going to do now is get my ruler, and I'm going to put it there, 0 on there, and measure that distance there. And it should be 6, because I know this arc here was 6, and that distance from here to here should be 10, because I measured that it was 10 earlier. And sure enough, when I do measure it with my ruler, you can see here, 0 by here, all the way 6 on that line there. And I know that this is 10 centimeters because I measured that to be 10 centimeters before. Next, I'm going to get my ruler, I'm going to hold it parallel to this line here. So I'm going to measure exactly 6 centimeters coming across here. So it looks like this, and I'm measuring from 0 here to 6 there. And I'm going to draw a straight line like that. And you can see here, when I'm measuring there with my ruler by here to join it to that point there, it's 6 centimeters again. So I know every single one is 6 centimeters, and I know this distance across the diagonal is 10 there. So my finished construction looks something like that. And as you can see, when I do measure my ruler from here to here, it makes 10 centimeters. For this question, you need to go to the front. You're given the formula to work out a trapezium. Okay, so you go to the front, and it will tell you area of a trapezium is equal to a half a plus b h. Okay, now little things that I'm going to stick in there. This means a half times, and this means times by h when you just put things together. When we're talking a and b, we're talking about the parallel sides. Okay, and the parallel sides are the two sides that will never meet. So in this case, it's going to be these two here. Okay, but in terms of what I don't know, and when I'm talking about height is the right angle, is the what we call the perpendicular distance between the parallel lines. Now I don't know at first glance what this measurement is. Okay, so I need to work it. I'm just going to check how many marks this is. I think it'll be about 6. Yeah, 7 marks. It's not going to be quite as simple as literally just chucking the information into that formula. So I need to go and work out what that blue line is. Now to do that, I can see I've got a right angle here, where opposite the right angle I've got a side, and I do actually know the distance between E to C. And the way I can work that out is by doing this 19.7 take away the 13.4. Now if I do 19.7 take away 13.4, I get 6.3. So I know this guy here is 6.3 centimeters. Okay, now that means I've got two sides of a right angle triangle, so to find the third side of the right angle triangle, this side here, which is in effect the blue line here, I'm going to use Pythagoras' theorem. Pythagoras' theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now some teachers may refer to this as h squared for the hypotenuse, but some people just say, well, that's c there, the one that is always opposite the right angle, the longest length. Now if you are given the hypotenuse, like you are here, this 8.2, if you're given that, then you can do two things. You can either sub into this formula as you want, and then you'll find that you'll have a squared plus 6.3 squared equals 8.2 squared. But if you are given the hypotenuse, I would recommend rearranging your formula to being this, the big one squared, take away the other one squared is equal to the other one squared. Okay? So then into your calculator goes 8.2 squared minus 6.3 squared equals a squared. So that's going into my calculator. I'm certainly not doing this in my head. And I get the answer 27.55 is equal to a squared. Now that is a squared. To get rid of this squared, we square root by here. Okay, so we square root that 27.55, and that will be equal to a, which is what this guy here is. This is a. Okay, so this is a. So then the square root of that answer has given me an absolutely rank number here. Okay, so it's given me 5.248809389. Okay, now I would recommend just leaving that answer in your calculator and then using the A and S button, which is the left key of the equal sign. If you round it, you may get penalised for not being accurate. However, you would be very, very unlucky to lose that mark. I'm going to show you how I do it, what I do, or press into the calculator, but you could round it to 5.2 to 1 decimal place as long as you stated it and say that is equal to A, and you could sub that into what our next thing is. Okay? So now I know this A here. This is also what my height is in this formula here. This is what the height is. The height is the perpendicular, the right angle distance between the parallel sides. So parallel side number 1 is 13.4, and then parallel side number 2 is 19.7. I'm just realising how mean they've been with this, that they're confusing your A plus B is A squared plus B squared equals C squared, and then you've got A's and B's here. So this A by here and this C here, this has got nothing to do with the next one, so I'm going to do this in a different colour. My parallel sides I've already identified is, don't want to do it like that, is this one here and this one here. Okay, so this is the A and the B that I'm dealing with here and here. Okay, so it is going to be area is equal to a half times by bracket 13.4 plus 19.7. I'm going to close the bracket and I'm going to times by that height. Now that height is what I called A before, which I know is that 5.2 answer that I just had. But I'm going to say 5.2 ... show it continues. So I'm going to say 5.2 ... there. I'm going to put this into my calculator. The first thing is really, really obvious. I just start typing on my calculator all of this bit here. But this one here, this button here, I'm going to write as the ants key on my calculator. Okay, I'm going to use that instead of saying 5.2. So I'm going to get 1 over 2 times by, and then 13.4 plus 19.7, close brackets, times by ands, and if you've done the same thing as me, you should get the answer 86.86779538. Okay, and I would round that, but again, I'd write out the whole number and then I'd round it. Personally, to me, I'd do it to 1 decimal place. So I'm going to round that to 86.9 centimetres squared because it's an area. Okay, but quite a fussy question with lots of crossover between the Pythagoras I had to use and then this formula. Okay, what David's done here is he's made the opinion that getting a double 2 is greater than scoring a double 6. Is this true? Justify your reason. Okay, so the chance of me getting a double 2, we've looked at this before where we drew a two-way table. So if I draw out, not like that. If I draw out dice number 1, I could get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different ways that I could get a number, so 1 to 6. And then dice number 2, I could get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different ways here. So if I have my table looking something like that, then the scores I could get a double 1, I could get a double 2, a double 3, a double 4, a double 5, or a double 6. But I'm only really interested in these options here, that I'm getting a double 2, so double 2, or a double 6. As you can see, there's only one way that I can make a double 2, and there's only one way I can make a double 6. Because there are 6 outcomes here and 6 outcomes here, the chances of me scoring a double 2, I'd say P brackets double 2 equals 1 out of 36, and then the probability that I get a double 6 is also 1, because there's only one way that I've got double 6, out of 36. So David is wrong. So it says, is this true? So this is not true. Not true for this reason that I've already explained. And I'll just point there. If I really wanted to, if I had loads of time in the exam, if I could fill these in, but only if you've got time at the end. There's no need to go and put that, as long as you can work out there's 36 outcomes. The reason why there's 36, 6 outcomes here, 6 outcomes here, that's the total. You times the number of outcomes together. Okay? Okay, and so your first one here, number 8, you may like to use the word FOIL to help you remember how to do it. Basically, this x has to multiply both of these terms here, and this plus 6 has to multiply both of these terms here. So x times x gives me x squared, x times minus 2 gives me minus 2x, plus 6 times x gives me plus 6x, and then plus 6 times minus 2, positive times by negative, different signs, so we've got a plus here and a minus here, that is going to give me minus 12. So then if I summarise all that, there's only one x squared term, so it's just x squared. Minus 2x plus 6x gives me plus 4x, and then the minus 12 remains the same. Careful when you're doing this one. 3 times 5, we know what that is. 3 times 5 is 15. So I'm just going to sort of highlight what I've done there, 15. And then x to the power of 5 times x to the power of 7. The powers actually add, so it should be x to the power of 12. This one here, it's asking me to do 35 divided by 5. So 35 divided by 5. So again, the numbers, 35 divided by 5 gives me 7. And when you're dividing powers, they actually divide by each other. They actually subtract each other. So you get x to the power of 4. Okay? This thing here, squared, means times by itself. So I'd actually write this out again. I'd say 5x cubed y times by 5x cubed y. Okay? So I'm going to do 5 times 5, that's 25. So 5 times 5, that's 25. And then I'm going to do x cubed times by x cubed. So remember, you add the powers together. So that's x to the power of 6. And I'm going to do y times y, which is just y squared. So that's what your answer should be. Okay, we've not actually answered many questions like this one here. So if I ask you a question like, let's say, something times by 5 equals 0. The only answer that something can be, to give an answer of 0, you need to multiply by 0. That's the only way you can make 0. So even if it was something like 1,000,000 times 0, because you're multiplying by 0, that will turn whatever you're multiplying by 0. That's the only way you can get 0, okay? So for that to be true, the only thing this can be is 0, okay? So if my answer here says equals 0, we've got two options. Either this thing here is 0, or this thing here is 0, okay? So focusing on this one here first, that's telling me that x plus 2 is equal to 0. So then, whichever way you do it, I'm going to take away 2 from both sides, or you could take the plus 2 over, we get x equals minus 2. Now, because that answer is a minus 2, by there, sticking minus 2 into that, minus 2 plus 2 is 0, and it doesn't matter what this is, because that 0 times something will be 0. Okay? The other option is making this 0. So 5x plus 1 equals 0. Take the plus 1 over, or take plus 1 off each side, or minus 1 each side. So we get 5x equals minus 1. And then we divide both sides by 5, or take the 5 over and divide by the 5. We get x equals minus 1/5. Finally, solve. So this thing here, I'm going to draw an arrow down. I don't like this divide by x. I want x to be on the top, very much not on the bottom. So I'm going to times both sides by x. So this is going to give me 8 times x, which you say is 8x, equals 35. So then we would do divide by 8 each side, or take the 8 across and divide each side by 8. And that is very much going into a calculator, and that should give you 4.375. Okay then, so in a ratio question, when you're seeing these things here, I knew straight away it's ratio without even really reading it. It says 3 friends decide to share the cost of a season ticket in the ratio of the numbers they will attend, which is 5 to 6 to 8. The cost of the season ticket is 665. How much will each of these 3 friends have to pay? Okay, your step 1 will always be the same. It will always be that you add the numbers together in the ratio. So you do 5, add 6, add 8. Okay, so that is going to give you 90. Your step 2 will always be the same again. It will be the sum of money or the number in the question. So this guy here, this 665 divided by that same 19. It's that 19 there that comes down here. Okay, so that goes into your calculator. And you get, just pop it in now, 665 divided by 19. You get 35. Now this is the answer for one part in the ratio. Okay, for one part. So your step 3 is that you work out the missing parts in the ratio. So the first guy, he had 5 parts. The next guy, he had 6 parts. And the next guy had 8 parts, which I guess in this case, he goes to 5 matches, he goes to 6 matches, he goes to 8 matches. So it obviously makes more sense that the guy who goes to 8 matches pays the most and the guy who goes to 5 matches pays the least. So we would do 5 times by 35. You can think of 35, where I've said one part, as the cost of one game. The other guy then, we would get 6 times 35. And then the final guy would get 8 times 35. And then again, all of these things here are going into calculator. So 5 times 35 comes to 175. And then 6 times 35 is 210. And then 8 times 35 is 280. And you can check to see if this looks like it's correct by adding these numbers here and checking they add to 665. Okay, the next question, I love it when these questions come up because it tells you what to do in your answer. It says that we need to get something in grams divided by centimetres cubed. Okay, so I've got centimetres squared. So in terms of this cylinder looking like a circular thing there with like a constant cross section. So we know this area here, we know this is 22.3 centimetres squared. And we know that the length of it is 18.4 centimetres. So to work out its volume, I would do what it says on the front page, or the second page, which is the formula booklet, and it will say volume equals area of cross-section, so that's 22.3 times by the length, so 18.4. Okay, so that's going into a calculator, so bear with me while I do that. So 22.3 times 18.4. And that is 410.32, and that would now be centimetres cubed for volume. Okay? The next bit is, it says the density was grams divided by centimetres cubed was 5.21. Okay? So I know that this answer that I'm missing, so I'm going to call that x, grams divided by the centimetres cubed, so divided by the 410.32, I know that comes to 5.21. I'll put in centimetres cubed there as well. Okay, and that's how I get the grams/cm cubed. Okay, now forget about the units, this is more or less solving equations from here. So how do I get rid of a divide by 410? Well, I times both sides by 410.32. So times that by 410.32. So my next calculation, going into my calculator, 410.32 times by 5.21. Now that comes to a really big answer. So this answer, this x in grams, is equal to 2,137.7672, but that is grams now, okay, because this is in grams here. So I've got my answer in grams, and it says get your answer in kilograms. So the final thing I have to do is divide this by 1,000 to turn it into x kilograms, into the number I'm looking for, which is basically going to bring that decimal into being 2. Now I don't want to have this many decimals after it. I'm going to round it to 1 decimal place, so 2.1 kilograms. I'm going to say in brackets to 1 dB to show what I've rounded it to.